Express. Before we took a break, we were talking about insurance company. And welcome back again to Africa Express. Tell me, what is the role of insurance company, and you've dealt with a lot of insurance companies. How it when somebody's looking to buy insurance so that they can have all this coverage that you mentioned, what should they do? What are they supposed to be looking at?
Well, insurance is a very serious purchase. And anytime you're making a serious purchase, if you're not armed with the knowledge yourself, you have to make decisions that are educated. And there are a lot of companies that do business online without insurance agents that have websites that you go on to and you select different coverages and they give you a quote and they lead you to believe that you're saving all this money when in fact you don't necessarily have the kind of coverage that really carries out your best interests. And so I always advise people to get insurance and deal with an insurance agent. Try and have things explained to you so you know exactly what you're paying for and what your coverages are. Now, there are some agents that do a very good job on that. There are other agents that don't. And so I think the message there is to find an agent that can satisfactorily explain insurance to you in as simple a concept as possible.
So, what is the possible implication of someone who chooses to go buy insurance online to an insurance company they don't see, don't know where they are? What is the possible implication?
There is an insurance company, I won't mention them by name, but you see them advertising quite a bit on TV. And I myself, even at one point, went onto their website to see what they were doing and what they had as an option, and it was by default, was basically the PIP coverage that we spoke about, where someone has automatically under their auto insurance $8,000 of coverage. They had things set up that people could, by default, exclude that coverage and to try and save money on the policy. And the savings I'm talking about were negligible, $20, $30, maybe $40. And what happened was that took out the availability of the $8,000 of PIP benefits for medicals and or lost wages. The problem got compounded even more so because there was case law that had come down that basically allowed the adverse carrier, the insurance carrier for the responsible parties insurance, to take as an offset in its evaluation the amount of medical bills, or not the amount of medical bills, but the $8,000 of potential coverage that was deducted in their evaluation. So you had a situation where somebody was essentially getting screwed twice. Once from not having the coverage under their own policy, and then when the case was to be resolved, those medicals weren't being included. So that's a perfect example of going it alone, online, selecting coverages where you really don't know the potential outcome or the ramifications of selecting certain things that can really create problems in a serious accident claim.
So really, where all this comes down to is you get into an accident, you need a lawyer. If you're buying insurance, you need someone that can sit down and educate you on what you're getting. And you yourself have to have questions. Make sure that you have enough coverage, not even enough coverage, the right coverage. And so doing insurance online, those people don't have the time to explain all this to you. That at the end of the day, if you are not educated on these issues, you might cut yourself short at the end of the day.
I invite people to come into my office all the time potential clients, current clients, former clients to bring their coverage selections pages to me so I can look, and I'm glad to explain to them what they have so that they can understand things if they still have questions in the event that they don't have an agent or they're not satisfied with the explanation that the agent has given them. And again, it's to help them avoid the unfortunate situation where they get hurt and there isn't enough coverage.
Okay. Now I'm gonna shift a little bit to workman compensation. What is that?
Workers' compensation is insurance coverage that exists here in Massachusetts that provides compensation to injured workers in situations in which they are injured while carrying out their job duties. Workers' compensation benefits provide payment for wages in the amount of 60% and also payment for medical expenses. It's a system that applies to all workers in Massachusetts. There can be some situations where certain employees are exempted from workers' compensation, but generally it applies to all workers. And a lot of people assume that workers' compensation benefits are provided directly by their employer, and that is not the reality. The employer is separate and distinct from the process. There are insurance companies that companies deal with that provide workers' compensation coverage. So ultimately, when you unfortunately have an injury at work, you have a claim with an insurance company, not with your company.
So, but who pays for that? Who is it? The employee or the employer? Who pays for the workman comp?
The employer pays for the insurance coverage for workers' compensation.
So now, when you get injured, you don't have a claim with your employer, but with the workman comp insurance company.
Correct. And the same logic applies when you get into a car accident, why you need a lawyer. The same holds true for when you're injured at work. You need counsel to help guide you through the process because you cannot rely upon the insurance company necessarily looking out for your best interests. You have to be very careful. There can also be situations in which there may be another responsible party as a result of a workers' compensation claim. And a perfect example of that is you have someone who is employed as a truck driver who gets injured in an accident while on the highway, that another vehicle causes the accident. So in that situation, you have someone who has a workers' compensation claim, and then they also have what's called a third-party claim against the negligent driver. And so you can have third-party claims that can arise in all sorts of different circumstances. So that's another reason why it's very important to consult with an attorney to examine the situation as closely as possible to make sure things are set up properly from the very beginning.
That was going to be my question, like how does it come about? But what is the implication when somebody is injured at work? What do they need to know? Because people don't know that really that whether to continue going to work or stay out of work, all that. How does it affect the employer and the employee relationship?
Well, the first thing if a work accident occurs is to make sure that the company is aware of the accident. And sometimes if the injuries are severe enough, the company will get notice of that automatically. But sometimes you have a situation where someone is working in a separate area of the workplace and the person gets injured and their manager is in a separate part of the building, and so that obviously has to be reported. And again, as we discussed about securing evidence, taking photographs of the machine that may have caused the injury, or the actual injuries themselves, trying to grab your cell phone quickly and take a photo to show what caused the accident to take place is very important. And then certainly getting the medical treatment that's required is very important to make sure that the person their health is preserved, and to look into issues as to further treatment that may be needed.
Tell us a little bit about partial disability. Tell us a little bit about
There
that.
can be partial disability, there could be total disability, and that's all assessed by a medical provider. Partial disability is a situation in which you're able to do some of your job functions, either with or without accommodation. Total disability is where you are prevented entirely from doing that type of work. And the kind of benefits that are afforded to people through workers' compensation are dependent upon those determinations. Ultimately, you can have a situation where someone has a permanent and total disability, in which case, because of the severity of the injury, they can't go back to work, and then there's an exploration of resolving the workers' comp claim in what's called a lump sum agreement. And that is a process that can involve the input of medical providers, both from the employee's perspective and also from the insurance company, in terms of arriving at a mutual agreement in terms of resolving the claim.
Let me ask you this question. The employer, what is their interest? Let's say someone is injured at work. Should the employee be talking to employer? Because I don't think, I think that the employer here, they're seeking their own interest. They are the one paying that money. So I don't think that they're on a neutral ground. Should the employee be talking to employer?
Well, an employee has certain obligations to the employer in terms of keeping the employer up to date with what's going on with them medically, and when their anticipated return to work is going to occur. So there's certain information that does need to be communicated between the employee and the employer, because the employer is obviously running a business and needs to staff its operation accordingly. But you do run into a situation where obviously a company has its concerns about its insurance premiums, and companies would often like to have people come back to work sooner than they really are physically capable in doing. And so you have these competing interests that exist that an injured worker has to be very careful about, because in the end, it's the worker's own health that needs to be focused on, and the job is secondary to that. So again, it's competing interests that just have to be managed properly to make sure that everybody can go about doing what they need to do, for the company to keep its business running, the employee to get the medical treatment that he or she needs to ultimately get their injuries resolved.
One more question. Product liability. How do you collect evidence with that? Say somebody goes or defective product. How do you collect evidence?
Well, it's as simple as taking photos or video of what is wrong with the product that causes the injury. There often are recalls on various products that are out there, just as there are recalls on motor vehicles. And so, preserving the evidence, as we've discussed, and documenting what exactly is wrong with the product is critical in terms of potentially pursuing a product liability case.
Attorney Siskin, you have given us so much information, and I want you to tell the viewers, if somebody wants to talk to you, or at least consult with you, how can they reach you and where?
Well, first of all, our telephone number is 508-588-5015. They can reach me by phone. My email address is Neal, N-E-A-L, at SiskinLaw, SISKINDLAW.com. And people can certainly send me emails. Our address is 360 Belmont Street here in Brockton. We've been at this location since 1980. I'm in practice with my father, Lawrence, who's been an attorney for approximately 50 years. And we've handled lots of different types of accident claims. But your viewers should know that we do not charge any money to consult with somebody about a potential accident claim. And so we're happy to speak with anybody to review their circumstance and see if there is a case to be pursued. That's free of charge. In addition, we work on what's called a contingent fee. We only get paid if we recover for somebody's injuries. If we don't recover for them, they owe us nothing. If we do recover for them, there's a percentage that we charge depending on the type of case that is the set compensation for the work that we do. But the way the fee works is the better I do for my clients, the better I ultimately do for myself. So I'm very focused to do the ultimate job that I can for my clients.
Thank you so much. You have been so informative. We're really appreciative of that. And I'm sure the audience, the information that you have given out today, that they will be more knowledgeable at the end of watching the show, because these accidents happen. There's nothing you can do about it. It happens all the time. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up this segment, and thank you for staying with us and watching Africa Express. Please do continue to watch us on this channel, same time, same place.